Hola, mi amigos, and welcome to a very special edition of the Sir Gladiator Show. Breaking news! A few days or so ago, someone, rather anonymously, leaked what appears to be some major information about the upcoming game Dragon Age 4. Now, of course, with any such major leak, there's no guaranteeing that it's accurate, and of course it's also subject to change. But if you recall, Dragon Age Inquisition had a major leak of information that turned out to be very accurate sometime before it was released, like maybe a year or so. So, maybe a couple of years. It had lots of information about the potential characters, and it turned out to be very accurate. And I suspect that this information was also quite accurate. Whoever it is, they gave us about over 30 different points of individual pieces of information, and some of it's pretty heavy on spoilers, so I'll put the heavier spoilers in a separate video so that those of you who don't want the heavy spoilers, you just want to know things like, who's going to be in the game, where might you be going, things like that. Guess what you'll get in this video, and then we'll discuss the heavier spoilers in my next video. Okay, that's how I'm planning to do it. I think that's, that way everyone will be happy. You want the heavy spoilers, you will get them. If you don't want the heavy spoilers, you can watch this one and be happy with that. Okay, now, according to the fellow giving us the information, he said that the information was half a year old, so again, it's subject to change. The first thing he mentioned was the possible titles of the game. Apparently they have not yet settled on a title. They have what appear to be 5 different possibilities. Imperium, Empire, Revolution, Retribution, and Legend. Now those are some titles that they're considering. And sort of from what I'm reading of the other pieces of information, they're probably going to settle on Revolution. That's just a guess on my part. But when you read the other points and you sort of take them all together, that would probably be the best title of those for what I'm seeing here. Alright, now he does mention also that they're building up to the 5th game. They have the title for. It's going to be called Vengeance because it's the 5th title, or Roman numeral V. And of course, again, this is me talking, not them, when I say that makes a lot of sense, and I assume that will be focused on Flemeth/Mythos vengeance on the world for unspecified wrongdoing, right? Because she always speaks vaguely about the world has betrayed, her being Flemeth, and also says now that Mythos also been betrayed. Now that we know that she is both people, it sort of she is Flemeth and has Mythos within her. They're sort of like both inhabiting the same body, so they're sort of like one person, and yet whatever, however that works. They want vengeance. And I guess that's going to come more to fruition in the 5th game. So they're still building up to that. That's what I would take from that. I think that's probably right. Another thing they point out, and this is unfortunate, but it says it will have less gameplay hours than Inquisition or Origins. And sadly, that probably makes sense too, because those were really huge games, and if BioWare is more focused on, their upcoming MMO, and they're going to want to be supporting that, then maybe they aren't going to want to give the full support to making another really huge game, particularly after what happened with Mass Effect and, how poorly it did, although that wasn't because of the size of the game, that was because it was not done well. You hire people who don't know what they're doing, and then they don't do well, and you're shocked, It's like, well, you hired them because of reasons that weren't related to game making. You hired them because they were feminist, and then they didn't do well in their job because they didn't have talent for their job. Gee, what a shock, you know. So, anyway, some of the characters they mentioned that will be coming back from various games. You got some characters from all three of the first three games that will be coming back, and you're going to find some of these you're going to like, some of these you're not going to like, probably, right? But let's start with some of the ones that the fellow started with. The first one he mentions is Talus. She's going to be, it says, her role is somehow connected with the Iron Bull or Sten, who's now the Arishok. It depends on your choices in previous games. Now that's reading from what the fellow said. Now, to expand on that, of course, both those fellows, Iron Bull and Sten, you could end up having to kill those characters, you know? So they might not even be around for the game. So I guess, my guess would be if neither of them are around, she'll just be associated with a generic Arishok. You know? And so like if one of them's around, the other one isn't, she'd be associated with the one that is. And if they both are, probably the Arishok, right? Sten. So, that'd just be my guess. That's my guess from that. Another character that he mentions is Fenris. There's no real details necessarily about what he's doing in the game. There's not necessarily a whole lot of information. Of course, I don't want to give too much of the heavy spoilers anyway, but there's no heavy spoilers necessarily for this, although the way he words it's a little bit confusing. But I sort of take it to mean, I'm not sure that really means anything what he's saying here. Really, it's vague. Okay? Just know that he's in the game in some capacity. Isabella is in the game. It mentions she has her own fleet now. For what that's worth, maybe she will help, transport our character from place to place, because as you read these notes, it seems to be a fair number of places we're going to be going. And so we might need, a boat to take us to some of these places, with the speed. Bouncing around to another character that one that you're sure to want to see. You're going to like this one. Sandal is back. Now, of course, Sandal was supposed to be in Inquisition. It seemed to be supposed to be when you looked at Dragon Age 2, and they said, hey, he and is it Bodane, whatever, we're going to Orlais, right? So that sort of seemed to be setting up for the fact that, we would be going to Orlais in Inquisition. Of course, we did. And they would be there. And they weren't. So, it's like, what the heck, So, probably, he was supposed to be in that one and it got cut for some reason. It was just a guess. And, so anyway, he's around for this one. And, looks like he is going to have a meaningful role in the game, which I'm saving for the spoiler video. Let's see. Now, Zevran, if he's still alive, will be the head of the Antivan Crows. Cassandra and Cullen might appear depending on your previous choices. It's rather vague. Okay, now there are other characters. I want to now, let's see, we also have Dorian and Vivian from Inquisition. It mentions that Dorian is planning a revolution. That's why I sort of think that it sounds like there may be a revolution involved, and that's also one of the possible titles, so maybe they're going to go with that. But because there's also a mention of the revolution later in these notes. So this the revolution and a revolution is mentioned multiple times. So kind of get the feeling that that's a big deal. Okay. Now, it says, and I hope this isn't right, or hope that if it is right that they change their mind because it's a terrible idea. It says that Morgan and Liliana are not going to be in the game. Both of them are not going to be in the game, and that doesn't make any sense. Now, these are major characters, and of course you know that, Morgan is just learned to, or I guess depending on how you played the game, Morgan may have just learned how to turn into a dragon. She may be under Flemeth's extra control. There's all sorts of possibilities for Morgan, and for her to just not be around at all makes no sense. It's crazy. So hopefully that was either a really bad idea they'll think better of, or maybe that was misunderstood. Maybe they just hadn't figured out yet what they wanted to do with her, because to not do anything is madness. All right. Now I want to touch on a couple of the returning characters that you probably can guess, and you really probably can guess when I mention Scout Harding, right? I mean, we know that. If there's one thing we know, is that Scout Harding is going to come back in the next game, and that she's going to be, a love interest, L.I., right? Because, of course, So we know that. So yes, and that is confirmed that she will be back in this game. Another character that's in the area of course he is Solus, right? I mean, he's one of the big, basically one of the big bad guys. I don't know if he's going to be a full-on bad guy, and to the extent that I do know the answer to that, I'm not going to reveal it here, but, who knows, right? I mean, I'll tell you, from what I have read, it's still, I don't know, you can probably look at it either way. I mean, I'm sure he'll be something in between anyway. Even if he is a villain, he probably won't be a total villain. He'll be sympathetic to some degree, and if he somehow ends up being somehow sympathetic, he'll probably be villainous to some degree, because you see he is. You see that he's something of both anyway, and he'll probably keep doing that to some degree or other. That's just common sense. But so yes, it's confirmed. He will be in the next game. Not shocking. Something that sort of is a spoiler in and of itself, but it is relevant to giving this character is back, just in case you had any doubts, that Flemeth is indeed going to be back, and there are details as to how she's going to be back that I will save for the spoiler section. It is a meaningful spoiler, and it's not super huge, but it's big enough that I'm going to go ahead and save it. Flemeth will be back. If you want to know how she's going to be back, watch the spoiler video. I don't want to give away, something you don't want to know too much, But Flemeth will be back. So that's a good one. We like that. We do like that, and that is a big one. Who else can I give without giving away too much? Let's see. Well, let's go to some of the new people. Is there anybody else I haven't covered of the old people? Oh, there's one more. Another big one. I forgot this one. It's a very big one. Another returning character, returning in her full glory, so to speak, is, of course, Sarah, who will be revealed what we already know if you're paying close attention. If you're paying close attention, you already know this. It will be revealed that she is indeed the ancient elf Andruil. However you want to pronounce that, Andruil, whatever. Very powerful ancient elf, just like Solus is the trickster, and just like Flemeth is Mythal, Sarah is Andruil. And of course we know that she has history, that Andruil has history with both of those. We know from the notes, right? So now exactly how much of that is true and exactly how it is true is a question, and exactly how that's going to play out. I think we know that Andruil had something of a fight / rivalry, if you will, with Mythal, right? Now, whether they hated each other or whether it was just sort of a one-time thing, who knows? Do we know that obviously Andruil and the trickster had a bit of a past, and that there was obviously, it's suggested that they had a relationship at one time. Now, obviously that's not consistent with Sarah's current preferences, as it were, but of course Andruil and Sarah are not necessarily the same person, so that's not necessarily exclusive. They could both be true, is what I'm saying. So, because just like Flemeth is not Mythal, they are separate. They're sharing the same body. They sort of have the same objectives right now, it seems. They are separate people. You know, you could see that Sarah and Andrew are separate people with separate objectives as well. I mean, he may not. They may be the same person, just like Solus is the trickster, whatever his name is, sort of a weird name. It's sort of weird that way because, you know, Mythil and Flemeth are supposedly two different people, but Solus and Trickster are basically the same. They're the same person. He's the same guy, you know. So which one is Sarah? We're gonna have to find that out. Anyway, so that's interesting, but that should be real interesting to find out. But so we know that Andrew has his history with both, and that should make that whole thing really interesting, really, really interesting. And yeah, you got another good, powerful ancient elf, and that'll be real interesting to see how that goes. And you're gonna want to, you know that. Now, I do want to get into some of the new characters, because some of the new characters are real interesting. Okay. And the first one I want to get into is Yavanna. Now they're taking these new characters from like the books or the comic books or whatever you call these things. And Yavanna is from the Silent Grove. Now I never read that one, so I don't really know too much about this character, but it sounds interesting. I've looked up some of these characters, and including Yavanna. So I have some information, but still, having not read the thing, I'm sure if you have, you know more than me. But it's she is going to be part of your team. She's going to join in Antiva. Now, hopefully that's not too much of a spoiler. You know, so you're going to Antiva is one of the places you're going to be going to in the game. I think that's not too much of a spoiler. That's one of the things we wanted to give out. Where are we going? Some of the places we're going. And one of them is Antiva. And we'll be meeting Yavanna there. Okay? There is more information here. Save that for the spoiler section. But there's another new character that I want to go ahead and reveal at this time. Because it is... not really sure how to say this one. I'm going to spell it, then I'm going to say it, and hopefully you'll figure out who I'm talking about one way or the other. V-A-E-A, looks like Vea. And she is from Knight Errant. And now the wording here, very few words, is worded only female romance option. Now of course she's not the only female romance option, because you know you're going to have Scout Harding and you're going to have who knows who else. You're going to have multiple female romance options. So I assume that what they meant, maybe English is not their first language, maybe they worded that wrong, and she's female only romance option. Because I looked up Vea, and apparently she seems to be hanging around, just in the sort of the summary that I read, she seems to hang around various lesbians. So it's reasonable to assume that yes, she is one also. The notes don't mention either way, but the people she's around, like all the females that she's around, seem to be lesbians themselves. So they're saying here, they seem to be saying that she is one. That's very consistent with what I've read about her character. So even though the wording isn't correct or necessarily, I think that's what they meant. That she is going to be a female only romance option, the lesbian romance option, just like Sarah was in the previous game. I think that's what he meant. Now there is much more here. I do want to save the rest of it for the next video, in which we will get into spoilers, more heavy spoilers. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and leave a comment, leave questions, leave your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed it. If there's anything else you'd like me to discuss in more detail or whatever, feel free to ask in the comments. And until next time, thank you for watching, and have a great day.